ancestors told. Rebirthology, limitless living. Mind meets mystic, soul keeps winning. Limitless, 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 limitless. Rebirthology, where soul remembers how to be lived.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you enjoyed that intro. I thought that we would continue with that intro, our new theme song for Rebirthology. Hi, everybody. It's so good to connect with you. And I know that November has already jumped off, and we have been in the Return of the Matriarch series. And of course, your girl had to take a minute to go and celebrate 11 years. 11 years, our 11-year elevation is what we called it. And I am so happy and grateful for all of your love, all of the ways that you showed up, particularly to my friends and family. There were so many disruptions in the atmosphere. So those who made it were those who were supposed to be present with us. Those of you in the tribe and in the community who are a part of the Rebirth community, I realized that I started off very private, very small, then slowly it began to grow and it began to be known. And when I look back, I realized that I possibly could have definitely included a lot more, but I really wanted this celebration to be about us. We wanted it to be about us and not a production, since my husband has to share me with so much of the world as it is. This was really centered on us, and really it was a whole ritual in many ways. And so thank you. If you have not watched it, please let me know if you'd be interested in a watch party, or just go directly to the Hillside site and watch the Grand Union celebration. So that being said, here we are in the month of November, and there is a fresh word from the Divine Mother who guides this ministry and orders my steps to come and to hold this space. Rebirth has been rebirthed so many times, and there could not be a rebirth without death. Yes, I'm pausing for effect. I'm pausing for you to take that in. A lot of people love to be the butterfly, but they forget that the butterfly goes through a cocoon season where they change forms from one complete form into a whole new form. People love to talk about the colors of the butterfly or the wings of the butterfly and all that the butterfly represents, but forget that the butterfly had to go through a dissolution process. And so when we talk about this month of November, it is covered by the energy of renunciation and elimination. Renunciation and elimination. Take a look at that. The disciple is Thaddeus traditionally, but in this space, we are using the 12 powers of the divine woman, of the divine feminine, and the archetypes to guide us in this particular ministry space that we're in. Now, what is renunciation? I'm so glad you asked, is about eliminating and letting go. A lot of people love to talk about the law of attraction, or love to talk about the reaping, the sowing, even in traditional settings. But we do not often talk about the principle of letting go and elimination. That is a universal law. So when things begin to happen in the world, like natural disasters, governments rise and fall all the time. We study them in school. We talk about them in the mythology, but we don't oftentimes accept when we're living in the transition of government, of times. And oftentimes on a spiritual level, we've prayed for this change. We've asked for this change. But when it comes, we protest, we feel victimized oftentimes. And so when we talk about the power of renunciation, it's very not ironic, but it's purposeful that the area of the body is the lower abdomen. So this is where we hold waste, where we process food, but we must eliminate. If you have a major surgery, the first thing that they're looking for when you have surgery is that you must go to the bathroom. You must eliminate. Now, they will release you and monitor you and give you something in a way that supports you in eliminating, or in older times they would hold you. You could not go home until you had elimination to know that your system was working. But how many of us hold on to things? How many of us have had our digestion affected by the things that we eat, or the foods not being nutrient rich? Well, the same is true when we come to areas of our spiritual life that demand us to grow, demand us to expand. And so when we talk about these 12 powers, we're infusing culture, depth, spiritual reflection that is grounded in ancient feminine wisdom. The discipleship of renunciation that it comes from the disciple Thaddeus offers us a message. And here is your sermon title for you, those of you in this tribe, those of you who are standing in your feminine leadership, those of you who are seeking, who are asking questions, those of you who are getting off of the proverbial fence of being transitioning from the traditional into the fullness of being a mystic, of being a seeker, of being a truth student. Let that go, sis. Not let go your transition, not let go of your stand in your feminine leadership, but it's time for us to renunciate. So I bring to you the title today, Let That Go, Sis. The Matriarch, the Alchemist, and the Sacred Art of Releasing. When we think about the matriarch, we always think about a mother figure. We think about big mama energy. And we are in a season of full disclosure of those things that have been hidden, particularly about the divine feminine identity of the God presence as woman. Not gender-based woman, but in energetics that we are looking at. There is no masculine without the feminine in order for there to be wholeness. There's a balance. We've been given a patriarchal identity of God. We use it. Won't he do it? When maybe in your life you've only seen her who's done it. You've seen her. Won't she do it? Your mother, your aunties, a matriarchal dominant family. But I want to go to scripture. 2 scriptures for you today to put in your pipe and smoke. If any man would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Matthew 13:24. Now, I do want to exegete this text a little bit more in terms of who Matthew was in the metaphysics, right? And we'll do that in our tribe. Come into the tribe so that we can have these discussions. And the second scripture is Psalm 51 and 10. Create in me a clean heart, O God, renew a right spirit within me. And I want to stay right there. I want to land right there in Psalm, because oftentimes we hear that. And I remember that my mentor, my spiritual covering, the Reverend Dr. Iyanla Van Zandt, used to say to us when we were studying at the Intervisions Institute, she would say to us in ministerial training, don't pray that prayer if you're not looking for change, if you're not looking for something to happen, if you're not looking for release. Do you hear me? Don't pray that. Create in me a clean heart. Renew in me a right spirit. But as metaphysicians, as ministers of spiritual consciousness, we would add this. Show me to me. That's the part that oftentimes we don't want to understand, that in our process of elimination, there may be something in us that needs to be cleansed, that needs to be cleared, whether it be the way that we speak or the way that we show up or the way that we interact with others or the thing that we've been telling ourselves. Come on now. Is it time for you to let that go, sis? And it's very interesting that the law of elimination or the principle of renunciation comes in November, when we tend to think about feasting, not fasting. We tend to want to gather, not go within. Isn't that interesting? There's so much in this world that has been done to flip us inside out, upside down, to make us think what's wrong is right, what's right is wrong. But imagine if you thought about letting go. This is why for many years I taught the principle of forgiveness during this season, leading up to your holidays. If you practice that, if you observe that, even if you have repurposed it to Friendsgiving, if you've repurposed it to gather and be in service, if you've repurposed it even to acknowledge the indigenous traditions in us, it's still important for us to consider, what are we letting go before we get ready to go into a new Gregorian calendar year. The new year really has already started in October. The trees begin to what? Let go. We call it fall. They begin to release. They begin to enunciate. We see it in nature. But we stuff ourselves. We engorge ourselves. We oftentimes check out through our food. It's okay. No judgment. It's an opportunity to make a new choice. So let's keep going. Charles Fillmore says, when man is receptive and obedient, giving himself unreservedly up to spirit, he is delighted with the possibilities that are disclosed to him in the cleansing of mind and body. He also talked about something very interesting about the third dimension and the fourth dimension. Now, you have to consider the context whenever you're reading or referencing any unity writing. In many ways, it's very archaic for those of us who have been on this journey, awakening journey. A lot of the language is very dated, but the principles remain the same. Charles Fillmore talked about the third and fourth dimension when we're already in fifth dimension energy and beyond now. But it's very easy for us to still manage the body and the energy systems with third dimensional consciousness. That's very dense. It's very focused on the physical, on the concrete. But in this season, there's an invitation to cleanse the third dimensional, the density of the body, in preparation to have room for more fourth and fifth dimensional food, spiritual knowing, spiritual access. This is the spiritual season right now of composting. Look at the trees. Look at the leaves. If you live in the country and if you're in the city, you may not be aware. But in the country, the ground is covered with leaves in these colors. They're shedding all over the place. It's composting season. When, my husband and I will study a lot before we garden. Really, he's the scientist when it comes to this, the agriculturalist. And there's a guy, Joe Salatine, that we study, who talks about how we've been taught all these things in gardening to do when nature does a lot of it itself. You really don't have to do anything if you use sustainability methods from what's already happening. So the trees go, they shed their leaves, they compost into the ground, they become nutrients for the ground that you're going to plant your food. So there's a constant recycling process of death and life, rebirth. November doesn't just usher in Thanksgiving, a holiday created by man and usurped and given a false identity about some pilgrims that came. We're still practicing falsehood and want people to tell us the truth. You get mad at people who lie to you, but we participate in lies all the time, not acknowledging the pillaging and the murderous energy that is attached to those who invaded indigenous people. I just have to say that. It brings the energy to clean house in the spirit. That's what renunciation does. Not ritually, but surgically. You heard me talk about surgery when I opened. This is a time to cancel what's been clinging on to us, especially in thought, in our heart, to cut cords with what never belonged in the first place. So that means when you get new knowledge and new understanding, something new and different is required of you, of us, to show up, to participate with life, with community differently, and especially metaphysical law and principles, to purge the patterns that have been fermented in your psychic gut. We're not just talking about the third dimensional gut. We're talking about you, sis, as the alchemist. You, sis, rising to be the return of the matriarchy in your memory, in your remembrance, in your practices. We call this renunciation. But in the way of the matriarch, we know you don't just throw things away, you release them with ceremony. You all know I just had a ceremony. My marriage has been made new just by ceremony. I feel renewed. I had to release what has been. Let me keep going because I could talk about the falling in love all over again and again for a long time. Okay, because 11 years, it has not been easy. Especially when you know who you are, both parties. When people get married and they don't know who they are, that too has its own story, its own script, its own climax and crescendo. But when you know who you are, there's a lot of letting go of even that identity in order for you to be moved from me consciousness to we consciousness. But I digress a little bit. It's still on topic. The feminine archetype and energy that we're talking about for you, though, is the alchemist. You are an alchemist. Look at the word. All, chemistry, chem. What is chem? Go study that. I'm giving you opportunities to study and show yourself approved. This is how I awakened. This is how things came online for me. Because when the student is ready, teachers appear. But you have to ready yourself and let go of being spoon-fed. When you hear something, it's important for you to write it down. Let me go look that up. Let me ask a question. Oh, let me share my findings. You, as the alchemist, is not a minimalist or a martyr. You're not in the business of deprivation as the alchemist. So you don't have to join in this deprivation conversation. Even as a new world is being built, hear me. As a new world is being built, you too have the opportunity to lay a new foundation. You are the medicine woman of sacred elimination, first for yourself, for your environment, but most of all for your consciousness and sometimes your relationships. You know that release is not loss, it's power, especially when you do it by choice and not by force. You hear me say this all the time. You burn what no longer serves you. You bury what no longer grows. You bless what must go before winter arrives. You understand? Because winter forces you inside. Like the high priestess of old times, of old paradigms, of old worlds, the alchemist does not ask for permission. She conjures what she needs. If you're in our community, if you've been in Juicy, if you are coming into Juicy, you will hear that word conjure. It is not a bad word. It is not dark magic that has the patriarchy has made you fear to be something that's not good for you. You conjure what you need because you have spiritual authority over your space, your spirit, and your frequency. That's what grandma did when she would rock and moan. She was conjuring because she was visualizing. She was pulling down strongholds. She was cord cutting on that rocking chair, on that porch, when she was stirring pots. The current climate is spiritual warfare and groupthink. I know that we are focused on wars and rumors of wars in faraway places, but this is spiritual warfare between priesthood. Some of it does not even have anything to do with the average citizen, but the average citizen is jumping in fights. That's not about them. But when your third eye is turned on, when you have spiritual discernment, you know what's not for you, what's not your fight. This battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. What Lord? The law of life. And everybody that's before you that you may have even voted in office is not governing the law of life. Once again, this is for you to study. YouTube University is a beautiful place. I give you a lot of master teachers who've already forecasted some of these things. But in this world of performative gratitude that we call Thanksgiving, weaponized spirituality, people who use theology to make you feel shame, guilt, worry, end of times, it is easy to lose yourself in the noise. But this is the season to say, I don't agree with that. This is the season. I don't align with that. And even when people are talking about something that has just been announced on the news, you can even say, Louise Hay teaches this. That's not true for me. Or you can say, I don't carry that energy. I am not working with that energy. You can cast it away. Don't come near my dwelling. You can talk to it and send it away. If you even acknowledge it at all, you can say, I release what's not mine to hold. Even when people try to project it onto you, because the mental health of humans right now is fragile. And some of the things that they're saying and doing could be not yours to take on. You can even go in higher and say, I choose alignment, not allegiance. Sometimes we are so loyal to others that we betray ourselves. I want you to let that sink in for a minute, what I just said. Elimination and fasting is not always just from food. Sometimes it's from thoughts, it's from words, from people, places, and things. We are not obligated to feast with forces that we're called to transmute. Sometimes we go sit down at tables that we know where love is not being served, even if it's in our own bloodline. You tolerate your family, you tolerate abuse, you re-traumatize yourself out of obligation and allegiance. What if you chose yourself in this season. Thanksgiving, as we've known it, is no longer just a table tradition. It's an energetic clearing. Gratitude and appreciation is a science of increase, of abundance, of calling forth more, of conjuring more. We're not just passing plates, y'all. We're passing judgment on what no longer belongs in our energy field. People say don't judge. Okay, well, don't judge, but use discernment, use wisdom. Renunciation is a spiritual technology. It's not punishment. An alchemist uses spiritual technology all of the time. It's not piety. Even her laughter, her joy, her orgasm, her pleasure is ceremonial. The alchemist recalibrates herself so that she can become attracted to the things that she wants, not the things that you don't want or worry about or have anxiety about because they told you to. In other words, the alchemist honors a pattern of disruption. Sometimes the disruption is your joy. Sometimes the disruption is your ceremony. Sometimes the disruption is your unwillingness to participate and constantly repeating what the mainstream media has told you is the problem. What if you repeated the solution? What if your prayers became the solution that you spoke over your life? Jesus said, deny yourself in that scripture I read to you, not because desire is bad, but because misaligned desire leads to bondage. The cross is what many places are still teaching and crying about and want you to get on it. But it's your season to come down off of the cross. The cross is not the burden. It is the sacred intersection where spirit reorders what the flesh misunderstood, what the third dimension miseducated intentionally. So I want to close with 3 forms, 3 keys, 3 opportunities from the alchemist table in this season that we're entering into. 1, name it before you blame it. Come on now. I want somebody to put that in the chat. Name it before you blame it. You can't eliminate what you refuse to confront. What habits, what thought loops, what trauma patterns, what energies are you protecting because they're familiar, even though they are toxic? I just had to do this coming into my wedding week. I had to speak truth to power in my life to someone I respect and love and adore. But I was not being offered the same respect, love, adoration, and affirmation. They were stressing me out. It was toxic energy projected onto me in a time that I wanted to be in bliss because I was calling that forth. And I had a choice to make. Fear, loss of love, or reprimand, misassignment of who I am, or speak to it. Ask it a question. Why are you talking like this? Why are you putting that responsibility that you missed on me? It was scary. I didn't really want to go there. But name it before you blame it or blame yourself. Point number 2, reframe the cross. You cannot continue to say that you don't do church. I don't do organized religion, but it's still in you if you have not reframed what you were taught since you were a little girl, little boy. If you have not reframed it, if you have not studied to show yourself approved, you're still at the cross consciousness. Your cross isn't your pain. It's your power in proper placement. Let the four corners of your being, the mind, the body, the heart, the spirit, align again. Realignment is possible when you call it forth, when you reframe it. This is free game. This is good to me. Conjure, number 3, conjure with intention. Call it forth with intention. Don't just release. You must replace. When you go through a cleanse, a fast, or a detox, no, most smart people don't just come off of a fast, a detox, or a cleanse and go eat a burger. That's called retoxing. How many of us detox every Sunday and we retox the moment that we engage with people who have not been the ones that are called to do the work? You are the chosen one in your bloodline to remember. You said yes to show up. You. So you have to replace. The universe abhors a void. And what you don't replace it with, then you are on automatic. You must replace when you release. Clear the thought, then plant and a new decree. Clear it and plant a new decree. I don't believe this anymore. I now choose to believe this. And when you're done with that one, I don't believe that anymore, because it's a staircase. You're constantly elevating. But you got to release step 1 in order to get to step 2 and 3. But a lot of us, we want to jump from pain to joy and just be in joy and not take any steps in between. Clear the altar, then lay new offerings. When you do altar work, you don't keep putting fresh food on food that you put on your altar. And at a certain point, it's important for you to cleanse and clear your altar. You must lay new offerings on a freshly cleansed altar. Clear the relationship and call in right relations. That's what we did. I think that's what my husband and I did. We cleared. In many ways, we were clearing. We were renunciating for days leading up to it, because sometimes if you're not intentional, you'll be on automatic and think that something is wrong. But what's happening is you're cleansing. You ever been selective with what you eat and you end up not eating anything, and then you look and you fasted that day because you were so intentional with what you ate? I know for me, I've lost some weight. And I got to tell y'all about that. I found something that works with my system, but I also have been working out. And so that means I had to renunciate sleep. I had to renunciate what the hormones were saying to me about my energy levels and override it by doing it anyway. I might not have felt like it. Some days I was cussing out the trainer. Oh my God, girl, like for real. And some days I was watching that clock and I just tell myself 1 more minute. Sometimes we have to release the thought. But anyway, where I was going with that is this. I got to say this. You fasted automatically. You fasted by default because you chose deliberate feedings of your own self. Let me tell you what I did. Where I was going with that is, I found myself, I made an agreement with myself that I would only feed myself with what I enjoyed. As my stomach got smaller and smaller in terms of being able to hold certain foods, I realized that I wasn't just going to snack mindlessly, and I wasn't going to gorge or stuff myself, that I would sit down with a meal. And even if I liked a certain food, if it didn't come with a full meal, I don't always want French fries and coleslaw or something like that. No, I want a meal. I deserve a meal if I'm eating less. When I do eat, I want to feast. I want it to be meaningful. I want to feel like I have nourished myself. And I promise you, before I looked up, when I looked up, I found like, oh my God, I wasn't checking the scale. And that's why I was so happy with how I looked in that dress. I started to feel like I got me back. I am feeling like that. And I think about all of the negative self-talk that I had at this size. Let me show you. I had negative self-talk. You see me covering up my stomach? Girl, please give me that stomach again. I keep this picture here to remind me of all of that. I keep this picture here. I keep other pictures to remind me. I keep words around me to remind me, to reframe. So I want to end with this. Take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. What do you need to renunciate before you start buying into what you need to do for a holiday, for others, for hosting? What do you need to renunciate before you buy into what's being forecasted? And I want you to be honest with yourself about your relations, about your habits, about thought forms that continue to come up. And just affirm with me, I now release all that is no longer aligned with my soul evolution. I now release all that is no longer aligned with my soul's evolution. I cleanse my mind, my body, and my memory. I cleanse my mind, my body, and my memory. I make sacred room for spirit to feel me. I make sacred room for spirit to feel me. I am not empty. I am ready. I am not empty. I am ready. And let's say it in the affirmative, because let me say this. Renunciation does require a denial. Typically, when we do affirmations, we do not affirm what we are not. But sometimes before you can affirm what you are, you need to denounce what you are no longer embracing. In fact, when we do spiritual mind treatments, we do denials. In spiritual mind treatments, we teach you to do a denial before you affirm. So the opposite of I am not empty is I am available. I am ready. I am available. I am ready. And so I want to give you one thing to do, and I'm going to give 2 or 3 more in terms of a ritual inside the tribe. I invite you to come into the tribe, join us in the portal. And if you have not been active in the portal, get active. Show up, like a post, scroll. There may be something that feeds your spirit just what you needed because of what has been shared. Link up on Wednesdays for prayer. Tap into Tuesdays when we have the mother tongue reading room, where we've been going through a whole process of recalibrating ourselves with women writers who've tapped into the wisdom of the ancient mother. It works when you work it, baby. You hear me? It works when you work it. So I want you to make a list of all of the habits, people, ancestral burdens and memories, or internal dialogue that must be cleared. I want you to make a list. When you make that list, you can comment on my Facebook page, Rebirth with Latanya on all platforms. Let me know, or you can comment right here. But in fact, it'd probably be best for you to comment right here on YouTube. I got it. I did it. If you're in the portal, tell me you got it, and I'll give you the next steps for this ritual. I want you to take a breath. I want you to move into our prayer practice and the way that we do it in the Rebirth International Ministry space. I will turn you over to Minister Dana to take you into the next space of processing what you've heard, of praying for and pulling down strongholds and lifting up the desires of your heart and your new commitment and your new reframe. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you want to give, Dana will tell you how, but Minister Dana will tell you how. If you are not in the portal, you can always send a love offering. Go to the link in my bio and send a love offering. You can send by PayPal, by Cash App to the ministry. Again, I'll see you on the other side. Have a wonderful, wonderful service.